devil does come back in Luke 22 when Judas starts figuring out his plans. So here's what I want you to think about. What's the devil want with Jesus? Now it's interesting because these temptations are not listed in Mark. This whole thing doesn't even happen in John. And in Matthew, it's in a different order. In Matthew, it's bread, then suffering, then power. Because that's really what Matthew's gospel is interested in, is in the power and the fulfillment that Jesus has as the new Moses. Matthew is very much about power, about the final judgment, about the conclusion of all things. Luke's got a different energy and kind of a different tack. Luke's really the gospel for the dispossessed, the gospel for the marginalized. You have more women speaking in Luke's gospel than you have in any other gospel. You have more focus on the poor in Luke's gospel than in any other gospel. And so Luke moves it. Starts with food. And remember, Jesus hasn't eaten anything for 40 days. He's literally dying. He's not just hungry. He's dying. Food, power, suffering. What does the devil want? The devil wants Jesus to affirm himself. The devil wants Jesus to center himself and his own power. And what does Jesus want to do? What does Jesus always want to do? He wants to affirm God. Right. He's always pointing back to God. It's even more clear in John's gospel than it is anywhere else, where it seems like Jesus is all about himself, all of the I am statements, but every time throughout John's gospel, he is pointing back to God. The devil wants him to separate himself, not just from God, but also from people. The devil wants him to set himself apart, claim that authority for himself, because that's kind of how the devil likes to roll. All of us have experienced what it's like when someone uses their power to separate themselves from us, or to cut us off from community. When they flex and try to make it clear that they're the ones that are in charge, they're the ones that make the rules, they're the ones that decide and define reality, they're the ones with power. In fact, this is exactly what Jesus critiques in the disciples when they want to find out who's the greatest. They're arguing about this, and Jesus is like, you guys, this is exactly how the Gentiles do power. This is how they do authority. They lord it over each other. Not with you. How are you going to be great? What did the man say? How do we be great?
Be a servant.
Be of service. Be a servant. That's his image of what power is. That's his image of what authority is. Greatness is found in service. And so when the devil tries to get him to prove himself, Jesus is like, no, I'm not going to prove myself to you or even to myself. God will find a place for me to prove myself, and it will always be in service. But I don't need to prove anything to you. I don't owe you anything. You are just a slanderer and a liar and an accuser, and you are nothing unless I give you power, unless I'm willing to be manipulated by you. And I'm not. Do you know what real power is? I have a feeling. Because you guys have it. You know what real power is? It's welcome. Welcome is power. Think about it. Think about when you have been welcomed. Think about the power of someone seeing you and saying, yes, yes, you're here. Thank God. Welcome Welcome is God power. But it's tricky. Power's tricky because it easily becomes an identity. I am welcome to this space. I'm part of this space. This is me. We are it. Right? It becomes an identity. I think that's the tricky part about power, is when power becomes an identity instead of a dynamic, instead of a relationship. It starts to feel durable, right? This welcome, this us-ness, we, the us, it becomes a thing that's about us. Think about all of your identities. How many of them are really about relationships? I'm a parent, I'm a child, I'm a coworker, I'm a creative. So many of them have to do with how we relate to other people and other things, but they're who we are, right? They're our identities until dementia. There are identities until traumatic brain injury. There are identities until we start losing our mobility. There are identities until arthritis. Who are you? Come on.
Child of God.
You guys gotta be better at that. Come on.
Rhetorical.
Yeah. I'll never ask you that question rhetorically. I will always ask you that question and then expect you to respond, because I want you to be really good at coming back to that. I want you to be practiced at that. I want that to be habit. Everything we have, all that we are, all that is, comes from God. And we get confused about this stuff, right? Like wealth, right? It's a thing. It's stuff. It exists, right? It's durable. But there was a time when humans didn't have durable wealth. There was a time before currency. It wasn't that long ago when it was most of human existence. Modern anthropologists say modern humans, humans that are just as smart and capable as you, just as handsome and beautiful as y'all, have been in existence for 100,000 years. Yeah.
Is crypto durable wealth?
I'll get to that in just a second, actually. But think about in a time when you didn't have durable wealth. Where was your wealth? It was in relationships. It was in your community. When you killed an animal too big for your family, you invited everybody to come eat. Well, part of that's because you don't have the preservation systems to smoke all of that before it gets rotten. Watch Into the Wild. It's a fun example of that. It's terrible, actually, the kid dies. But anyway, you bring your people in, and even the people that aren't really your people, you bring them in too, because you've got more than enough, because there's this abundance in your life, and it ain't gonna last, so why not share it? Because what does it do? It builds connections. It builds those connecting fibers between communities. Generosity creates community. And where's your wealth? This anthropologist asked this guy about food preservation, and the guy's like, where do I store my extra meat? I store it in my neighbor's belly. Because I assume there's going to be reciprocity in there. I assume that's going to come back. And even if you think about this, think about crypto or even paper money. It's all an agreement between people. That's not a real thing. Come on. You think when society collapses and civilization falls apart, your dollar bill is going to be worth anything? It's only worth something if the other person agrees that it's worth something. That's how costs change. That's how markets work, is we all consent that this is worth it. And when we stop consenting that it's worth it, its price goes down. It's all about relationship. It's all ideas. None of this stuff is real. And it is super real. It is both. I had a colleague when I was in seminary who used to say regarding gender, just because a house is constructed doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And their point was that how we think about things makes them real. Because we consent to a reality together. We are co-creating a reality together. Which is why the Slanderer is so damn powerful. Because the slanderer can disrupt the narrative that we have about ourselves and about each other, and they can integrate their lies and their bullshit and their domination tendencies into our reality. This is what spiritual warfare is actually all about. It's not about how there's some demon that's trying to possess you and take over your life and steal your job. No, it's about there's a lie you're starting to believe. And we got to push back against the lie we're starting to believe. And for me, that lie is all about merited grace, earned worthiness. That is the bullshit. And that is the lie of all the kingdoms of the world. The devil surely has authority of all the kingdoms of the world because all the kingdoms of the world seem to speak the language of merited grace, of earned worthiness. And people consent to those lies. People play that game all the time. Why do I know that? Because I play that game on a relatively regular basis, and I need to be saved from myself and from the devil who lies to me and tells me I need to earn something in the face of God. What we believe impacts reality deeply, which also means that we are creators and co-creators of a new reality. We can literally create the kingdom of God together by co-articulating a new way of being. That's what church is. Church is an experiment for imagining a different way of being in the world. That's what you are all doing together. You are creating a new reality. And if every church in this country knew that it was doing that and started doing it together, what could we be? What could we become? What devils could we unseat from thrones of power? Welcome is power, and all of us are welcomed differently. And we're welcomed differently in different places. You know places where you are fully welcome, and you know places where you're tolerated at best. You know places where you are brought in and moved up to a seat of authority, and you know places where you dare not sit at the front of that room. That's what privilege is. That's all it is. So what seat do you get offered in the room you walk into? That's all it is. It's not complicated. It's not amazing. It's not something we need to rail against or not talk about. It's just what seat are you offered in the room you walk into? Everybody's welcomed differently. And the challenge of the 21st century, and this sucks, and people are going to hate it, but you don't get to just be a person. You're never going to walk into a room and just be a person with perhaps, if we do it right, this room. If you walk into this room, I pray that you all walk into this room as beloved children of God. But the challenge in the 21st century is you're going to walk in all kinds of rooms and you're never going to just be a person. You're going to have all your identities with you. And every other person in that room is going to have all their identities with them too. And you're going to want to just be a person. I literally had a queer woman ask me, God, what's it like to just be a person? Right? Because I'm a straight white dude. And I get to imagine that I'm rolling in as just a person who has ideas and opinions. And I'm like, well, Reverend Alyssa, that's not real. I am not ever just a person. It feels like it sometimes because I can't see all the ways that I was invited into all them seats at the front of the room. But here's the thing. You can get mad about this if you want, but our man, Jesus, he sees people in their particularity. He doesn't just roll up on people as if they aren't operating within power dynamics. He sees the woman who's been bleeding for 12 years in particular. He sees the man who's sitting at the pool and can't get in particular. He sees the woman at the well in particular. Our man Jesus is very interested in people's particularity because he knows that the power is in the welcome. And he works really hard to see people in their particularity and welcome them in their particularity. Jesus is not colorblind. To be colorblind is to lie to ourselves in so many ways. Jesus is very interested in you in particular, all of your complexity, and in welcoming you in particular. Fortunately, in Jesus' house, there are not front row seats. It's a big damn circle. And he's big enough to be close to all of us, wherever we're sitting in the circle. Now, that is to say that we are also accountable to anyone from whom we get power, which is why Jesus absolutely rejects getting power from the devil. He is not interested in being accountable to the devil for his power. But y'all are welcome, or y'all are accountable to the people from whom you receive power. Think about any time you've hosted a party. You put together the guest list. Now, you might think about who you want to be there, but if you're actually responsible, you think about how those people are going to get along. You know who not to invite if you're inviting this person. You know where there's cattiness, where there's defensiveness, where there's pain, where there's a long-standing bitterness. And if you're not inviting them to hold that together with them, to care for them, it is irresponsible for you to invite them to be together, right? Because your welcome is also an accountability for you. Can you make that space safe enough? Can you help them feel welcome and safe in that place? There is an accountability that is baked into our welcome. And our welcome is transformational. That I pray that it does not become a static identity, that we are the ones who are welcome. That our identity is a dynamic identity. We are the ones who welcome. We are growing in our integrity and our understanding of who we are in God, that we become powerful enough to welcome others. That it does not threaten our dignity, it does not threaten our identity, it does not threaten our truth to welcome others in who hold a different truth, have a different identity, whose particularity stands in contrast to our own. That is, in fact, a sign of great maturity. It's called differentiation in psychology. Can we stand in our integrity and in our truth amidst people who are different from us, who believe different from us, even the slanderer? I will shame the devil by welcoming him into my house. Because he cannot speak against me when I know who I am. He does not have power over me. You want to slander me, fool? Go ahead, call me a racist. I probably am. Go ahead, sexist, misogynist, whatever. Yeah, probably true. Does that impinge upon my dignity? No. Who am I?
A child of God.
You're damn right. I ain't giving the devil no quarter in this house. Come on now. We don't do this in our name because we were given our name. We do it in his name. We welcome because he welcomed us. Check this. This is John chapter 1, 10 through 13. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to those who gave him authority, who trusted in his name, he gave the authority to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. The same word, authority, power, is in that text. Our power comes from our welcome. And we welcome because we are welcomed. So let us claim the power of Christ to transform the world by how we see and move